Imagine walking into your backyard on a freezing December morning and finding a lifeless German Shepherd puppy lying motionless in the snow. No heartbeat, no breathing, the body cold to the touch. Most people would assume the worst and call animal control. But when retired nurse Lisa Chen discovered what appeared to be a dead 8-week-old puppy behind her Minneapolis home, her medical training kicked in, and she noticed something that would change everything. What happened over the next 6 hours didn't just save a life. It challenged everything veterinarians thought they knew about hypothermia survival in young animals and created a medical case study still referenced in veterinary schools today. This is the incredible true story of Max, the puppy who came back from the dead, and the woman whose refusal to give up created a miracle that defied medical explanation. Lisa Chen had been starting her mornings the same way for 15 years, coffee first, then a quick check of her backyard bird feeders before the Minneapolis winter fully set in. As a retired ICU nurse with 32 years of experience, Lisa had developed an almost supernatural ability to notice when something was wrong, even in the most ordinary situations. It was 6:23 a.m. on December 18th. The temperature hovered at -8 degrees Fahrenheit, with a wind chill that made exposed skin sting within seconds. The snow from the previous night's blizzard had created perfect white drifts across her suburban backyard. Everything looked pristine and undisturbed, until she saw the small, dark shape near her garden shed. At first, Lisa thought it might be a stuffed animal blown over from a neighbor's yard, but as she walked closer, her heart sank. It was a German Shepherd puppy, maybe 8 weeks old, lying completely motionless in the snow. The puppy's position was heartbreaking, curled tightly into a ball, his black and tan fur dusted with ice crystals, eyes closed, tiny body showing no signs of life. Lisa had seen enough death in her 3 decades of nursing to recognize it instantly. The little dog had clearly been outside all night in sub-zero temperatures. There was no way something so small could have survived. But something made her kneel down anyway. Her medical training had taught her to always check for signs of life, even when hope seemed gone. She pulled off her gloves and placed 2 fingers gently against the puppy's neck. Nothing. She tried his chest. Nothing. His wrist. Still nothing. His body wasn't just cold, it was the kind of deep, penetrating cold that meant hypothermia had advanced far beyond recovery. She lifted one eyelid. His eye was fixed and glassy, unresponsive. The same appearance she'd seen in countless patients who had already passed. She leaned closer, watching his tiny chest for a full minute. No movement, no breath. By every medical indicator, this puppy had been dead for hours. Lisa began to rise, ready to call animal control, and then, something stopped her. The puppy's position bothered her. In her years of nursing, she had learned that animals who die of hypothermia usually don't curl up in such perfect defensive positions. They tend to stretch out as their body systems shut down. Even stranger was the location. The puppy was lying in the exact center of her yard, far from any fence line or shelter. How could a puppy this young have ended up inside her securely fenced yard? And why were there no signs of struggle in the snow? Lisa studied the little body more closely. His fur, though dusted with snow, wasn't matted or dirty. His tiny paws showed no injury or wear you'd expect from wandering in such brutal conditions. Most puzzling of all, despite lying in the snow for what had to be hours, there was barely any melting around him. His core temperature had dropped so low that he wasn't generating any body heat at all. Lisa's mind went back to a phrase drilled into her during years of ICU work. "You're not dead until you're warm and dead." She had seen hypothermia victims who looked gone, only to return once carefully rewarmed. Standing there in her backyard, staring at the frozen puppy, Lisa made a decision. Instead of treating him as deceased, she was going to treat this as a medical emergency. Scooping the tiny body into her coat, she rushed back inside her house. If there was even the smallest chance he was still alive, the next hour would decide everything. What Lisa didn't know was that she was about to begin one of the most remarkable resuscitations ever recorded, one that would later appear in veterinary journals as a case that redefined the boundaries of survival. Inside her warm kitchen, Lisa transformed the space into an emergency ICU. Her instincts from decades of critical care took over. She placed the puppy on a thick towel beneath bright task lighting and began her examination. What she found was both terrifying and strangely hopeful. The puppy's core temperature was just 84 degrees Fahrenheit, a full 17 degrees below the normal canine temperature. In human medicine, this was often fatal, yet Lisa noticed his muscles, though limp, didn't have the stiffness of rigor mortis. His joints still moved freely. His tissues retained just enough elasticity to suggest cellular death hadn't fully set in. There was a chance. She began the slow, careful rewarming process she had once used on human hypothermia patients. Warm towels from the dryer, a low heating pad, positioned to target the core while avoiding burns, gentle massage of the chest and paws to stimulate circulation. Minutes passed. 20 minutes in, she thought she saw the faintest flicker near his eyes. She froze, watching. Nothing followed, but she continued. 45 minutes in, his temperature had risen to 89 degrees. Still no breathing, no heartbeat, but the gray pallor of death was changing. Around his gums, a faint pink blush appeared. That was enough for Lisa to push harder. She began puppy CPR, 2 fingers pressing down on his chest in tiny compressions. Gentle breaths, mouth to muzzle. 15 minutes passed, still no response. Doubt gnawed at her. Then, suddenly, under her fingertips, she felt it, the faintest pulse in his femoral artery, so weak she wondered if she imagined it. But no, there it was, 1 beat every 8 or 10 seconds. Lisa's breath caught. He's fighting. She kept going. His color strengthened. His gums, once gray, now flushed faint pink. His body temperature climbed to 92 degrees. Then, at 8:47 a.m., 93 minutes after she had first found him in the snow, the miracle happened. The puppy's tiny ribcage expanded on its own. A breath. 10 seconds later, another. Then another. Lisa's eyes filled with tears as she pressed trembling fingers to his chest. This time, there was no doubt. A weak but steady heartbeat. Slow, maybe 40 beats per minute, but real. He was alive. Dr. Sarah Williams, an emergency veterinarian and old colleague of Lisa's from rescue work, arrived 20 minutes later after hearing Lisa's frantic voicemail. When Lisa told her the puppy's initial temperature, her jaw dropped. 84 degrees? Fixed pupils? No breathing? And now this? Dr. Williams shook her head. Lisa, this is unprecedented. As they worked together, the puppy's vitals stabilized. His temperature reached 96 degrees. His heart rate climbed to 65. His breathing became regular. His pupils, when checked with a light, constricted, sign of intact brain function. By 10:30 a.m., 4 hours after Lisa first found him, his temperature was 99 degrees. At 11:15 a.m., his eyes fluttered open. Lisa gasped. Dr. Williams whispered, "You've done the impossible." But as Max, the puppy who came back from the dead, took his first fragile steps toward life again, a darker mystery loomed. How had a healthy, 8-week-old German Shepherd ended up nearly frozen to death in Lisa's locked backyard? Detective Maria Rodriguez of the Minneapolis Animal Control Division would soon uncover the disturbing answer, one that revealed Max's miracle survival was only the beginning of a much larger story. Lisa continued monitoring the puppy, now named Max, throughout his recovery. By late afternoon, he was showing remarkable improvement. His temperature had stabilized at 101.5 degrees. His heart rate held steady at 110 beats per minute, and he had begun making purposeful movements. The breakthrough in the investigation came when Detective Rodriguez reviewed recent reports of missing pets. 3 days earlier, the Thompson family had filed a report about their missing German Shepherd puppy. When Rodriguez called them, the story that emerged was both heartbreaking and infuriating. The Thompsons had been forced to surrender Max to their landlord after neighbors complained about his nighttime crying. The landlord, Brad Hensley, promised to find him a good home rather than sending him to a shelter. But when Rodriguez tracked Hensley down, his story quickly unraveled under questioning. Security camera footage from a nearby business confirmed Rodriguez's suspicion. At 2:30 a.m., on the night of the blizzard, Hensley had driven to Lisa's neighborhood and deliberately abandoned Max in the freezing cold. The footage clearly showed him tossing the tiny puppy over Lisa's fence before driving away. This wasn't just abandonment, Rodriguez told Lisa gravely. This was attempted animal murder. He knew that puppy couldn't survive those temperatures. He was counting on Max dying, just so he wouldn't have to pay for euthanasia or surrender fees. Medical evidence supported the charges. Dr. Williams confirmed that Max had been outside for nearly 4 hours in -8 degrees weather before Lisa found him. For a puppy that young, Survival under those conditions was virtually impossible without immediate intervention. Max's survival is literally 1 in a million. Dr. Williams told Rodriguez. His age, the extreme cold, the length of exposure, by every standard, it should have been fatal. The only reason he's alive is because Lisa found him when she did, and she had the medical training to act instantly. As the investigation continued, Max's recovery accelerated. By evening, he lifted his head, tracked movement with his eyes, and responded to gentle touches. Most remarkably, neurological tests revealed no brain damage despite his prolonged hypothermia. The case would eventually result in criminal charges against Hensley for animal cruelty and endangerment. But for Lisa, the discovery was deeper. Max hadn't simply been abandoned, he had been deliberately left to die in her backyard by someone who saw his young life as disposable. That realization made Max's survival even more meaningful. This wasn't just a medical anomaly, it was a testament to the will to live, and to the power of refusing to give up on a creature others had written off. Over the next 72 hours, Max's recovery defied every prediction. Dr. Williams documented each milestone meticulously, knowing she was witnessing a case destined to be studied for decades. On day 2, Max drank water on his own, concerned about potential kidney damage. Dr. Williams ran organ function tests, but they came back perfectly normal. His appetite returned gradually, starting with puppy formula and progressing to solid food by week's end. But the most extraordinary part of Max's recovery wasn't physical, it was neurological. Despite being clinically dead for an unknown period and suffering hypothermia severe enough to stop his heart and breathing, Max displayed no cognitive impairment whatsoever. He learned house training quickly, demonstrated strong intelligence, and showed problem-solving skills typical of a healthy German Shepherd puppy. Dr. Williams brought in Dr. Robert Chen, a veterinary neurologist, who conducted a full evaluation. "We're seeing absolutely no evidence of hypoxic brain injury," he reported. "His motor function, sensory processing, and cognitive responses are all completely normal. It's as if the hypothermia event never happened." Max's story soon attracted national attention. Veterinary researchers contacted Drive, Williams, and the American Veterinary Medical Association documented Max's case to update emergency treatment protocols. Lisa's improvised techniques, gradual rewarming, adapted CPR, and careful monitoring of vitals, became the foundation for what researchers began calling the Max Protocol. What Lisa accomplished wasn't just medical intervention, Dr. Williams explained. It was the perfect balance of knowledge, timing, and intuition. She recognized life where others would have seen death, and she had the skill to act on it. As Max grew stronger, his personality blossomed, playful yet gentle, intelligent yet calm, affectionate yet independent. He carried no signs of trauma despite his terrifying start. It was as if surviving had made him stronger, not weaker. The bond between Lisa and Max deepened daily. At first, Lisa intended only to foster him until he was strong enough for adoption. But weeks later, it was clear they belonged together. Max had chosen her just as surely as she had chosen to save him. "He's not just a medical miracle," Lisa told Drive Williams during a follow-up visit. "He's taught me not to give up on what looks hopeless. I've seen a lot of death in my career, but Max reminded me, there's always a chance for life, if you're willing to fight for it." The local media picked up Max's story, and soon it went viral worldwide. Videos of his recovery, from his first weak breaths to his playful puppy antics, captivated millions. Veterinary students studied the Max Protocol, and emergency clinics across the country began adopting versions of Lisa's methods. But Max's impact went beyond medicine. His story sparked reforms in animal shelters, leading to new cold weather emergency response systems and stronger abandonment laws. 6 months later, Max was a healthy, joyful 35-pound adolescent dog, leaving no trace of his near-death ordeal. 2 years later, he was a magnificent 75-pound German Shepherd, whose case had saved hundreds of other animals through updated treatment protocols. Lisa and Max became beloved figures in the veterinary community, appearing at conferences to demonstrate not only his recovery but the lesson behind it. That sometimes the line between death and life is thinner than we think, and miracles happen when knowledge meets determination. Even the courts carried Max's legacy forward. Hensley was convicted of animal cruelty, sentenced to jail time, and permanently banned from owning pets. His case led to stronger penalties for abandonment in Minnesota and beyond. The Thompsons, the family who had lost Max, were reunited with him. Though they still couldn't keep a dog, Lisa made sure they remained part of his life, creating a unique, two-family bond built on love and resilience. Max also became a therapy dog, visiting hospitals and nursing homes, offering hope to patients facing their own battles. Children, in particular, seemed to understand him best. Kids look at Max and see proof, Lisa said during one visit, proof that surviving something terrible can make you stronger, not weaker. On the second anniversary of that December morning, Lisa stood in her backyard with Max, now strong and proud, beside her. The spot where she once knelt over what looked like a dead puppy was now the ground where a miracle began. Miracles aren't magic, Lisa reflected. They're what happens when knowledge, persistence, and compassion refuse to let go. Max's journey, from a lifeless body in the snow to a symbol of resilience, proved that sometimes the most broken things can heal, and sometimes what looks like the end is only the beginning of something extraordinary.
If this tale moved you, if you felt the tension, the heartbreak, and the triumph, please support our channel by hitting the like button and subscribing. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring more thrilling, emotional, and inspiring stories your way. Leave a comment below and let us know what you think. Do you believe dogs have an extraordinary sixth sense? Share your thoughts and personal stories with us. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.